Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Driven Wild. Today we are talking about Un-Blacklisted by ezCater. So a few days ago, I shared how I was unexpectedly blacklisted from receiving ezCater orders. I hadn't been active for long and suddenly my account was shown as invalid across a bunch of different platforms. I didn't receive any email. I didn't get notice from GigSafe or anything like that. The only reason I found out was because of the connections I had. And if it was anyone else, it would just be radio silence and confusion. So in this video, we are talking about how I was blacklisted and unblacklisted from ezCater, what I've been told versus how it actually is, what this means for transparency in the gig economy space, and everything in between. But before we do that, let's go over a quick disclaimer. The content of this video does not contain, is never intended to be, legal, business, financial, tax, or health advice of any kind. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is advised that you conduct your own research and consult qualified professionals before applying anything you find online. I also want to be clear that everything that we're going to be going over is very market to market, case by case, and what applies to me in my market and to me as a person may not apply to you. So with that said, let's get started. Where it started, the Jackrabbit connection. Before this all began, I was working with Jackrabbit Deliveries, one of the DSPs participating in the RMDA's ezCater program. During that time, I raised legitimate questions about payout discrepancies and tip transparency. You know, many of the concerns that many drivers had, and few were willing to voice, or if they were voicing it, they weren't being heard by the right people. And not long after that, my Jackrabbit account was suddenly deactivated without written notice or clear reason. And sometime later, Jackrabbit Deliveries was removed from the RMDA's ezCater program altogether for compliance and insurance related reasons. And that removal confirmed that some of my earlier concerns had merit, but by that point, my own reputation within the network had already taken a hit. After Jackrabbit was expelled, I learned from other DSPs that I had been blacklisted from ezCater orders entirely from ezCater, even though Jackrabbit was no longer part of the system and I had never received any direct communication from ezCater themselves. In other words, I was being penalized by an association long after the source of the problem had been removed. The confusion when a blacklist has no paper trail. Once word of this blacklist spread, things got a little messy quickly because Heather from Red Wagon told me that she couldn't dispatch me anymore because ezCater was the RMDA's client and she didn't want to create friction and she didn't have any other business in South Florida or very little business in South Florida, so therefore there was no reason to keep me onboarded. And Jeff from Food Fetch suggested I contact Paul, the RMDA president, since he might be able to step in. That said, the story kept changing fast. One person said it was ezCater's decision. The other one said it was an RMDA issue. The other one told me to apologize to ezCater profusely or to just move on. There was no documentation, no explanation. It was just calls and Slack messages and emails that I couldn't see and wasn't privy to the information. So a lot of it was just speculation or hearsay. So I did the only thing that a professional driver can do in this situation. Document everything. Every conversation and call was documented properly of all the things that were said. Every screenshot of every conversation was logged. I was ready to go to war. The breakthrough. RMDA intervened. After just a couple of days of back and forth and verifying what little information I had, I finally got a concrete answer. Paul from the RMDA reached out to confirm that he had taken my case to the RMDA board and spoken directly with ezCater. The result was clear. ezCater is not interfering with any DSP that chooses to work with me. In other words, whatever restriction had been claimed no longer exists and may have never been a true platform-wide ban to begin with. Paul also confirmed that the RMDA will notify its DSPs about this clarification, so everyone is working with accurate information going forward. So for me, that was the moment where this entire situation shifted from frustration to resolution. Why transparency matters. This story isn't about being unblacklisted. It's about transparency and accountability. When drivers are suspended, restricted, or flagged without warning, there needs to be a documented process and a path to appeal. Drivers shouldn't be left guessing on why their income suddenly disappeared. That's why I've been working with the RMDA on a tip verification program and compliance framework, so drivers can report these issues like missing tips, payment discrepancies, and get verified response through an independent channel. This experience validated why that system needs to exist. The bigger picture. Being unblacklisted doesn't erase the systematic issues that caused the confusion in the first place, but it does prove that open communication and documentation can lead to real results. The next step is building structure behind that communication. Clear verification timelines, consistent escalation channels, accountability for every party involved. And that's what we're working on now through Driven Wyld and the RMDA collaboration. There are some details that I need to figure out on my end, but we're getting there. Final thoughts. I am grateful to be back on track and to be able to take ezCater orders again, but more importantly, I'm grateful for the lessons this taught me, and more appropriately, what lesson this displays for gig workers everywhere. Persistence and documentation matter. So does having the courage to ask questions when something just doesn't feel right. If you're a driver facing a situation like this, don't give up. Keep records, ask for clarity, stand your ground with professionalism. We're not just drivers, we're independent contractors. We deserve transparency in how our work is handled. And thank you to everyone who's followed this journey and supported the mission, because we're just getting started on bringing a fair and transparent gig economy to you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, check out my website, drivenwyld.com, if you'd like to learn more about some of those services and gig platforms we have talked about in the past and are offering to gig workers today. If you would like to stay on the cutting edge of what's happening in the gig economy today and be in the know of what most people are talking about, make sure to check out our new channel, the Gone Wild Live Clips and Podcast, where we take the live streams we hold on Thursdays at 9 p.m., cut them down to more digestible clips, and have them posted there. Also, check out my Patreon for more exclusive clips, full-length live stream replays, and other membership perks for the self-employed individuals who want to grow and scale their business. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Rise up, shake off that 9 to 5 rust. In this wild world of hustle, we